Hey guys, so I'm going to do a quick click through of what one of our flights should look like. This should be a pretty quick video, but I think this will really drive home what we're trying to do here. There will be a folder change about 3/4 of the way through this, but you'll understand the jump there. So basically, what we're looking at here is the beginning of the high level orbit, which is the first scan that you're going to do. The drone has been positioned to start the orbit at this point. And remember, it's in clockwise. So I'm just going to click through. Then it's going to go kind of fast. We talk about do a stop motion movie. This is exactly what a full flight should look like with sectors that have to be scanned. The same procedure will be had with a monopole and with a guy wire, but this is a self-supporting tower. The difference with the guy wires is that you're not going to, on here you're going to notice that we're going to rotate around and pick up the legs. On a guy wire tower, you're not going to pick up the legs, obviously, because of the guy wires that are attached, but I'll try and remember to say something about that when we get to those rotations. So anyway, I'm going to click through this from the beginning to end and kind of annotate as we go, but you'll see that it looks like a movie, and we're just basically getting every bit of the tower, and I'll highlight some stuff as we're going along. So you notice here as the drone is flying in its orbit, the tower is the middle, the entire compound and everything is the middle of the shot. So as we're rotating around here, we're keeping that tower in the middle of the shot with the top of the tower visible in all of the photos. You might have to make small corrections as you fly to keep everything centered in, but it should, for the most part, the drone should fly itself. And we've got the gimbal at the angle of 20 to 25% down at this point that we'll leave. So now we're actually going to start. We've done the full rotation. This is really important here. So as we're going, you notice that we get back to our beginning place. We're going to start transitioning down to the access road. This is crucial here that this transition is smooth, and you notice the gimbal has not changed at this point. It was a smooth transition from the high level to the compound scan here. So now we're going to go into the actual compound scan here. So this one is a little higher than it normally is because we've got some cables and some other things that make it unsafe to be any lower. But ideally, you want to be about 15 feet off the ground at this point. But this is a good example of what to do if there are some obstructions. So we're flying here at the lowest, safest height possible. We can see that we've got some power lines there, and we're going above those. But the idea here is to get a 360 of the entire compound, so we can see everything that is in that compound there associated with that tower. So now that we're coming back around to the beginning of the compound, and we're at the beginning, we're back to the start of the compound. Now we're going to rotate into the face scans, and we're going to try and do the northernmost face first. So here the drone is positioning itself in the center between the two legs of the tower on the northernmost face, getting in position in the center, and we're going to ascend all the way to the top. We're going to pass the sector there, pass the equipment, then another sector until we get to the very, very top. You notice there that we have gotten to the top and we have cleared the actual tower, and we're looking to see the very, very height of it. So at this point now we're going to rotate to the left to where the leg of the tower is now in the center of the frame. And now we're going to descend down to the bottom with that leg on the center of the frame, passing by the sector, the equipment, the next sector, all the way down to the bottom so you can see the bottom of the steel and you've got some ground. Now we're going to rotate again and square up into the center of this face. We're about 25 feet away from the tower at this point. So once we get squared up, we're going to ascend all the way to the top, and you notice that all these transitions between legs and faces are very, very, very smooth. So now we're back at the top. Notice we can see the entire top of it again. We're going to rotate around to the next where the leg is in the center, and now we're going to descend back down with the leg on the center of this actual tower, passing the sector, the equipment, and the sector again, staying on that leg 20 to 25 feet out. And now we're going to rotate around to the last face. We're going to square up on that face and start ascending on this face. We're going to ascend all the way to the top, past that sector, past the equipment, past that next sector. And again, once we get to the top, we're going to make sure that we clear the top of the tower and we can see the very top of it. Now we're going to rotate around and grab the very last leg here. So now we're going to descend down on this last leg with that leg in the center, passing this sector. At this point, actually, he is going to go ahead and do the orbits on the actual sector themselves. So you can see the sector there. That's the equipment that's attached to the tower. We're going to do an up and a down at this point. So we're going to do a 360-degree orbit clockwise, looking down on this sector to get everything from the top down. Notice that we're rotating around on this sector. Even though it doesn't go completely 360 degrees around, you can see that it is a sector mount. Once we get back to where we started, we're going to do a very, very smooth transition down. Notice that he's transitioning down and he's rotating the gimbal up. So at this point, we're looking up underneath. We're going to do another 360 degree rotation, looking up underneath that sector. I'm going to rotate all the way around, kind of slow down here a little bit to make sure we get a bunch of good photos of underneath that sector. We're going to rotate around to this one. Notice that we're still looking upward to make sure we can zoom in on all of the bolts and all of the cables and everything underneath it. Once we get back to the beginning where we started, he rotates the gimbal back down to 20 to 25 degrees down. He continues down that last leg, and we have one more sector here. He's going to do the above orbit, looking down on that sector. Still looking down on that sector, rotating around. Okay, now that he's got down underneath, he's going to rotate down, gimbal back up, about 10 to 20 degrees, looking up, and we're going to rotate around on these sector mounts here. And that's the end of those photos. Let me switch to the next. Oops. Okay, so we're going to continue underneath that sector, rotating around, getting all of that sector information, all those pictures there, getting lots and lots of pictures. Moving at about 1.5, 1.8 miles per hour. Once we get back to the beginning point, he's going to go ahead and tilt the gimbal back down, 20 to 25 degrees down, and continue continue scanning that last leg. Once he is finished here, he's just going to rotate around and come to a stop. So that's what that looks like. Again, just very simple. That's from the beginning to end, making sure we've got all the scans. The only scan that was not done here is the actual scaling tape scan. We need to make sure that we hover 5-6 feet away from one of the scaling tapes and get good photographs of that so they can zoom in on the scaling tape. Please make sure you get close enough that that they will be able to zoom in and see the numbers. So anyway, that's basically a full scan from the beginning to end.